Okay.
All right, guys.
All right, so we're gonna be defining multiculturalism. So I guess I'm gonna get started first. So
wait, hold on. We have to introduce ourselves. All
right, my name is Rafael.
This is Rafael Reynos. I'm Stefan De Silva.
Kevin
Enriquez, and this is our project discussing multiculturalism, what it means to us for our HSS class with Professor Hunt. So this is for you, Professor Hunt.
Yeah.
So I want to get this started. All right.
So to get it started, I just want to, when you Google multiculturalism, the very first thing that pops up is, I'm going to read it to you, is the presence of or support of the presence of several distinct cultural or ethnic groups within a society. So I would actually agree with that statement. You know, multiculturalism is being able to be in a room with, let's say, someone who is Colombian/Peruvian, or someone hails from Trinidad and Tobago, and with different religions, and just being able to link up together and, you know, kind of enjoy each other's food and ideas and just different distinct comings. You know, we all come from a different background, and then myself being Mexican. So that's what it is to me.
For me, multiculturalism is basically sharing the culture you live in with multiple races, just like Kevin stated. But not also that, but also learning from other people's views, where they come from, what they have to bring to this country, and basically, you gotta cut that, bro.
There's no cutting, bro. It's a podcast. Okay. It's okay to mess up, you know.
Alright, and yeah, that's basically what I have to say.
Yeah. So for me, multiculturalism is just basically people from different demographics and groups coming together and mingling with each other, you know, sharing ideas, sharing music, sharing different tastes, and other cultures reacting to that, you know, like, do Puerto Ricans like Mexican food? Do Mexicans like Puerto Rican food? Do they, you know, but you see a lot of Hispanics specifically dancing to different types of their music, like bachata, merengue, and all these different dances that were adopted by certain countries, but you see certain Hispanic groups, you know, kind of taking that in and like learning how to dance, or adopting a certain type of food like empanadas. Like, where did that originate from? But you see all these cultures basically appreciating. So I guess for me, in a sense, multiculturalism is just different cultures appreciating each other's cultures and just behaving, reacting to it in a sense.
So basically, to piggyback off Stefan's idea about, so basically I would say the broader culture or ethnicity or grouping would be like Hispanic, Latino. But even within those, there's a lot of different cultures, like people from Mexico, Dominican Republic, Peruvians. They each have their own kind of slang of Spanish, their own kind of foods, their own kind of customs. So just being able to come to a country like America where you can commingle with all these people and learn, that's what it is, again, repeating.
Yeah, and just reference, you know, a post I did. I did a post earlier in the semester about the Brazilian culture, in a sense. Like, most Americans would just look at Brazilian culture and say, hey, that's just Brazilian. So no matter if you were fair-skinned or dark-skinned, but within the own Brazilian culture, there's different sects. Like, there's the ones who are more influenced by the African side, and then there's ones who are more influenced by the European side. And there's actually, you know, like, kind of like in a sense a split, but like not even segregation, but, you know, there is, you know, some type of racial tension within the country, as in, oh, you know, you're lighter, so maybe you're more value, or even though like most of like 90% of the Brazilian food is influenced by African descendants and culture, but you see like even within a culture, there's like a subculture. So like multiculturalism isn't just tied to ethnicities, but it's also, you can say it's tied to like social class. Like the rich, you know, will behave a certain way or act a certain way or go to certain events, rather than the poor. You know, they would have a different type of culture. They do different things on their free time than you know, the rich people might do.
And what's it called? A video that I discussed earlier, with the Argentine and the Mexican. Multiculturalism isn't like just able to like share and link up with each other's views, but there's always going to be disagreements. So people from Mexico might not agree with an Argentine, like on whose food is better, but eventually like you'll learn to like love someone's food more than yours, or like someone's like form of like what could I say, like take the dance from, what's that dance from Argentina? they dance.
So I'm not Hispanic.
I'm not
yeah,
sure.
I see
I'm not
what
sure.
Is it
See,
tango?
even, for example, I'm not really sure. of
Yeah.
their
I think it's
culture.
I think it's tango,
I'm
but
not
Oh
sure.
yeah, it probably is. Like, maybe,
so in that video, like basically you had an Argentine bump into the Mexican because he probably had a bad day or something. But,
Yeah.
and he called him a racist, but I don't see it as the race card because just because he pushed over his car doesn't mean he's racist. He could have done it to a black or a white.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
but that it was disrespectful because that could have been the man's way of making money. So
Yeah, exactly.
multiculturalism is like it's all tied into like people's way of life, like what they do, and basically learning from others' mistakes because those are negatives. Obviously, they're not like you don't take positives from that.
Yeah.
You don't want to take positives from like someone else's culture.
What do you guys think about just culture appropriation, like people adopting or like copying other people's cultures? Do you think that ties in with multiculturalism too, in a sense?
Yeah, so I was actually gonna tie that in. So immigration and things of that nature are just a fact of nature. People have immigrated since the dawn of time. So in my eyes, I was also gonna point out multiculturalism was bound to happen. With such a different, vast amount of people just migrating, moving, and settling with new people, it's something bound to happen. But a lot of countries and stuff maybe see immigration and maybe they get scared, so there's immigration laws. So I kind of wanted to tie it in to the more political side, even though I don't believe there is a political side. In the article by Rassani, he basically this says that multiculturalism should be a set of policies and laws governments must adopt. And he kind of lays it. I'm gonna read how he lays them out. 1, constitutional, legislative, or parliamentary affirmation of multiculturalism at the central and/or regional and municipal levels. 2, the adaptation of multiculturalism in school curriculum. The inclusion of ethnic minority representations and sensitivity in the mandate of public media or media licensing. And I think this one's the important one that's coming up. Exemptions from dress codes, such as allowing Sikhs to wear turbans instead of helmets or school caps. And exceptions from laws banning Sunday trade and so forth, which of course has to do with mostly religion stuff, which kind of ties in a lot to culture. Allowing dual citizenship, which is a big one. The funding of ethnic group organizations to support cultural activities. As you know, funding and money, very political.
Yeah.
The funding of ethnic group organizations to support cultural activities. Again, funding, money. Should the government be funding, other people's culture, supporting, and things of that nature? And the last one is affirmative action for disadvantaged groups. And I want to kind of reflect on this one. Do we view other people from different cultures at disadvantage? When I read this, I kind of was thinking, how do you really define someone as a disadvantaged group?
Well, I mean, just rebuttal, or not really rebuttal, but to reply to your comment. I mean, I feel like, first I want to ask, do you think multiculturalism has to do with like political influence too, or no?
I would like it not to be, but sadly, I know there is a political aspect to it.
Yeah, because like just to be straightforward, I think that multiculturalism is definitely influenced by like political or politics in a sense, because you could just look at North Korea compared to South Korea, right? Like the culture is different. Like it's night and day.
Different.
You have a communist compared to like a democratic government. So I think multiculturalism is definitely influenced by politics in a sense too, and that also affects how like people live their lives. And I just wanted to point out too that like most people have this misconception that multiculturalism is based on ethnicities, when it's not really based on ethnicities, but it's based on just like how people live their lives. Like you have, like you were saying about the Hispanic culture, you have like, you guys are all Hispanic, right? You're Mexican, you're Peruvian and Colombian, but there's different cultures within your own country, right? There's Spanish music, but there's different types of Spanish music, and like there's definitely countries who are well off more than others. Like you were saying that is there disadvantages? Oh yeah, of course there is. You can look at Africa compared to America, in America, we live a very lavish, lifestyle. We eat anytime we want. There's stores open for 24/7. If you go to Africa, there's not that. Just not maybe South Africa, but like just African countries in general, like they're not able to just go out and buy some McDonald's. Like some of these villages, they go out for days just to get water for 2 days, and they have to do the same thing again. And the same with food. So I feel like there's definitely cultures who are more advantaged, have more, advantages than others. But in a sense, it's like a lot of these countries don't have knowledge of like the things that we have in America. So their lifestyle is just like, oh, it's comfortable. Yeah, we eat once a day or twice a day. No biggie. We're able to live that way. But like compared to America, if we were to go to their country, we're like, damn, I need some Burger King right now, man. I need a burger. Like, get in my stomach right now. But yeah, I definitely do feel like politics plays a big role in culture, and you can even just think of just America itself. Like we have, like within our own government, we're able to change certain laws, like say like gay marriage, right, or like just being more free and open to doing things. Like when years ago that wasn't possible, right? You can think about racism and slavery, how like our culture has changed over time because of laws, because of certain things going into action and certain things being brought to light, right? Like one example, right, to talk about is marijuana. You can definitely say that the culture in California is definitely different than the culture in New York City because marijuana is legal over there compared to New York. And then even the culture itself, like California is way more slow paced. When New York is fast paced, everything is about work, right?
True. So,
what do you think about that, Rafael?
Which topic? How it ties into the politically?
Yeah, how politics affects multiculturalism.
I mean, after what you said, it is true. Like everyone's culture is like different. Like you said, I like the example you used about South Korea and North Korea.
Mm-hmm.
Like one lives like. You can compare like North Korea would be like the South America, and South Korea would be like here in the United States. One lives better than the other. One country's like dying of starvation and they don't have as many rights, and the other one lives freely. So politically, yeah, there's a lot of countries that are disadvantaged, like Kevin said, and it does play a big role because even since from like back when we first started migrating, like everyone always like migrates to a specific place, and then you had the slaves, and then eventually those slaves stuck to their own country, and then they had to migrate here. And then they took that same aspect and applied it to the life in the United States, and slavery is still alive today. But it's crazy how it's the disadvantaged like role is still applied to like the modern era, and. I think one day it's gonna end. I know there was I know you posted a question one day after on your Brazilian discussion. You asked if racism is still gonna be like.
Yeah, like do you think racism is gonna die out, or is it gonna keep on living?
Yeah, I'd say it still is.
Mm-hmm.
But
you don't think it's ever gonna like change, like because like since we are like in an age where we do see more interracial couples and like, people like mingling with each other, different cultures. Do you think that we're all gonna like be one color in a sense? Because people predict that.
That's what people say.
We're all tan.
Yeah, if that does happen, then we really won't have multicultures because everyone's gonna be mixed up. But
you think so?
I
feel like there's different levels of culture. I feel like this is a kind of a bring together what we just discussed. As Stefan made the analogy with the countries, from an aspect like of another country, we have our own American culture.
Mm-hmm.
So multiculturalism, I guess, has levels as well. We can say like the bottom level being the community you live in or the area you live in.
Exactly.
For example, we're all all of us went to the same high school. We're from Patterson and Passaic. Not the best places to live in. Definitely, you bring and you're raised in a different environment, so you have kind of a different culture. The way you go about things, like we're probably more careful while walking the streets, but maybe someone who grew up in a nicer neighborhood, their culture is different. And then the next level would be your ethnicity in a way. So Stefani eats different foods than I do, and then the next level would be maybe your social status and things of that nature,
definitely.
and then the top being the country you live in. So multiculturalism can be defined simple, but also very intricately as well.
Yeah, I think I agree 100% with Kevin. You know, I was gonna say the same thing too, as in like I said, multiculturalism isn't defined just by your ethnicity, but it's defined by like your way of living. So in a sense, as in like you said, we're all from Patterson, Passaic. You know, those areas are, you know, the majority of the population are minorities from different countries immigrating into those cities. So you know, we didn't have, you know, like, you know, nice cars, and we weren't, you know, spoon fed. You know, we didn't get things on a silver platter. We had to work for that. We had to get our own jobs, and you know, for me, I mean, all of us, we had to provide to help, you know, pay the bills in, you know, in our households, and yeah, we still do.
And then, for example, growing up in these cities, as you said, all the immigration and the migration that happens, you experience cultures. For example, in my town, there's Indian food, Mexican food, Dominican food. You cross over to Patterson, there's a heavy Arabic kind of population.
Yeah.
So you're able to see the way these people live, the way they dress. I mean, if I never really met some of these, I have a lot of Arabic friends, for example, because of just being able to learn from them and learn their ways. And maybe some people might find it a threat to see different things, but I find it a really beautiful thing to be able to learn. And my whole thing is as long as people are happy with what they're doing, then you shouldn't really be bothered. Their culture is their culture. They should be able to, you know, grasp it. And if people are able to intermingle their cultures, then that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's also good to like adapt yourself to like that culture, because you know, some countries like bring positive things. Some, I mean, the president classifies like, okay, take Donald Trump. He classifies Mexicans as bringing in negative you know, how do I
negative influence, like
negative like rapists and stealers and all
criminals,
that. It's like, you know, those are things that like it isn't true, because you know you have your different kinds of Mexican, but it's always good to like learn the positives from any culture.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like just the most important thing about multiculturalism is just learning from each other. Like, you know, learning, just like I learned things from Raphael that his culture does that I may want to adopt, and you know, it's same for my culture. Or like you can say how like predominantly more Arabic and, you know, and Muslim, you know, cultured countries, like where the women don't have as much rights as the men. When, you know, they come to America and the children go like, wait, no, that's not true. You know, women do have rights. You know, it's not, it really isn't that way. But in other countries of the world, it's like for a woman to talk back to her husband, that's like a slap to the face. So it's like, I feel like they can learn from, you know, the American culture, and we can learn the same thing from other cultures too. Just like, you know, like if you go to France or Europe, like their portions of food isn't as big and you know, and lavish as like, well, not really lavish, but the portions are not as big as Americans. Where Americans, we eat constantly, and that's why we're like the most obese country in the entirety of the globe. When like French, like they eat smaller portions, so they're healthier in a sense.
Okay, so I was gonna say, in conclusion, I'm gonna repeat the definition and then add based off what we had just discussed. So I previously read, multiculturalism is the presence of or support of the presence of several distinct cultural or ethnic groups within the society, and I'm going to add to that, amongst different levels and with a slight political touch. And that'll end our conversation.
You think so? Yeah, I think, you know, this was a really good podcast. I feel like we got our points across. So we just want to say thank you, Teresa Hunt, for making this possible. Thank you for allowing us to do this. I feel like it was definitely different, but it definitely was fun, and it was, you know, good getting our ideas,
our thoughts.
I feel like we could go on forever, but we are approaching the 20-minute
mark.
Yeah.
But
thank you.
You know, thanks guys. That was good. All right, guys. See you next time.
Peace.
Do we clap? No, like for the audio sync.
This guy created fire.